First things first, guys, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Feeling good.
So what I want to start with is your father was a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So in hindsight, was it inevitable that you became musicians as well?
I not necessarily, I don't think. I mean, they would have, him and my mom would have supported us in whatever we decided to do ultimately, but I mean, it was something that we took to very obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good that they were, because they helped, guide us and
Right.
helped us, because there were so many instruments around and stuff. So
And for you, was it immediately the instruments, or did you start with records and kind of develop the love for music from there?
I'm sure. Well,
We just saw like a lot of movies and heard a lot of the music in the house.
Okay.
but I mean, as soon as we saw people doing it, we pretended to do it, and like had guitars that we would pretend to play, and then it just kind of gradually evolved to, our dad showing us a couple simple like versions of chords, and then showing us the real versions when we were like old enough to, actually do it.
And was there maybe one artist or an album that stuck out from that period?
Well, like all of the Beatles records, pretty much.
All of the Beach Boys records.
Yeah, I mean, we had like, our dad would make like CDs of like greatest hits kind of stuff for us, but with the Beatles it was always the full things. Like we had a really expansive knowledge of their stuff very early on.
And this is going to sound like a silly question, but what makes in your opinion, what makes the Beatles so good?
I don't know. It was just, I think it's very hard for us to be objective because it was like them that got us into music.
They used like everything that they had in the studio and everything that they had access to in terms of like technology
and also like all of their faculties as songwriters. It wasn't like, once they had made advancements in like certain areas, they didn't shy away from that anymore, really. It was just kind of like continuously building off of what they had previously done. And that was something that I think stuck with us when we got older, and it wasn't just like it wouldn't have been as important to us for as long as it was if it was like a frivolous thing.
Right. And am I right in saying that for you the drums was the first instrument that kind of...
For both of us, we both sang on drums.
So how did the drums kind of beat out the guitar and other
Because
instruments?
I think they're easier for the little kids.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, and it's so immediate,
And so at what point did songwriting come into it? Because with the drums, it's not so much a song you're writing. So.
Well, he started playing other instruments very soon after the drums.
Okay.
I didn't start playing anything until I was 13. Like other than the drums, I played the drums. We both played the drums from like when we were like 5 years old on, and then he started playing.
I started playing guitar when I was like 7.
Okay.
And that was when I wrote like my first song, which was called "Girl," and it was like basically a monkey song called the kind of girl I could love, but I put my little spin on it, my 7-year-old spin on it. But Michael wrote his first song, I think he was probably 9, and I remember when he wrote it, and it was
I wrote
like
that with Brian. I like sang the melody, and he did the chords to it. I knew what the chords were in my head. I just couldn't play anything. But then I started playing stuff when I was like 13.
Do you still have a recording of that song?
Yeah, it's actually really good, because it's like he.
We have recordings of
of both of
all
them,
the
I think.
songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he wrote it like about how he was like feeling bad, like because he was thinking about his grandparents and his mom kind of dying one day, and it's like he was 9 years old. It's
Something
like
I
crazy.
still think about all the time.
Yeah,
But if you listen, I don't know if you ever do, but the last time you listened to the song, could you hear kind of traces of what you're doing now?
Yeah,
Sure,
it's all based on the Beatles and Beach Boys and stuff. And this album was like a honed-in version of us, like paying sort of our original influences, you know, like kind of all.
But I would also say that, like, whereas the stuff before was exclusively those influences, we've gone through like tons of phases of a bunch of different music since then.
Yeah, but it feels like those songs on the album are kind of mostly, I mean, doesn't it? They're mostly like based on, and then like the changing rhythms and stuff is like Procol Harum, and like I know that you don't.
No, yeah,
say
Procol
that,
Harum. No, Procol Harum. Sure.
Procol Harum and Beach Boys in the late '60s, and changing rhythms all the time and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what exactly was what, but I think it was like us just trying to do what was the most natural for us. And when you're like a kid, that's really easy to do.
Sure.
And I think that we were, before we like did this album with Rado, or at least for me, like I didn't seek as much music. I knew that like Rado was like, I only like had the stuff that I'd always listened to, and then we get really obsessed with artists,
Yeah.
and then like go through their whole discography, and like some of the stuff isn't great, but it's still by the same person, so like we listen to it anyway. And Rado kind of showed
us a
me that
different
it like
way.
felt like he does that with a lot of artists, but also like you sample everything because there's a lot of good stuff that people wrote, and it inspired me to like look into like a lot of different types of music and listen to a lot of people that I hadn't listened to. So this album, that's also part of why I feel like this album is mostly inspired by those people, because really it was just like those people and the British invasion stuff that my dad had showed us, you know, just like stuff that our dad had showed us, and then like the Who and stuff, you know.
But so you have all those influences, and like you said, you go through these phases of listening to certain types of music, and that stays with you a little bit. When does your own voice come out? Have you found it?
Well, I think that it, when I listen to it, because of just the amount of different stuff that we've listened to, it might sound like, you know, a bar of this and a bar of that, but to other people, to me, it's just like, it feels like, because we're writing it with none of those people in mind, it just kind of has to be.
Sometimes people in mind, but
I don't know.
No, not all the time. I mean, most of the time it's the other way. But I think your own voice is like. I think everybody's like just a combination of. I don't know if nobody really is completely, you know, comes together and then it's your own thing. I can't really tell you what's the original thing about Badfinger or whatever. Like that's like a band that's just trying to do the same thing that the Beatles did, you know, by writing songs, and then maybe the difference is like, oh, they're just using guitars and piano, and they're not like putting a bunch of synths in like the Beatles did in the end, and it's just recorded at a different time, you know, and they're just writing different songs with different chords.
Yeah, but I tend to think that like we're just focusing on, you know, songs and melodies and stuff, and because we try to write melodies that we haven't heard before, and because we're making a conscious effort to do that, I think that's where you kind of find originality, is through the actual melody and through the actual chords and stuff. The stuff that you kind of sprinkle on top of it, and with the arrangements and the production, that's the stuff where it's kind of like you have to make decisions that is probably more based on what you've heard.
Right.
Because I could take the same songs that we made on this record and you could make it sound like Kanye West or something.
Of course,
You know?
yeah.
So when you're focusing on the songs, I think that's where you're going to find the originality.